Hey guys, MEP Guy here, and in this video I'm going to show you guys how to create sheet notes for your plans. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the template file, so I have it open right here, and when you open the template warehouse file you'll see that it starts on this fixtures for copying view, but I've also created some sheet views. As you guys probably know, one of them was the fixture display sheet, and I've just added a new sheet notes sheet. So if we double click that one, you can see there's this blank sheet that just has some sheet notes text, a schedule or a note block schedule, so we'll talk a little bit more about that, and also this MEP sheet note family. And now you can see I have everything I'm going to need for my sheet notes on my plans. So like everything, we're just going to simply select everything, copy it to the clipboard, and then we'll go back to our sheet in our project, and we'll simply paste it in from the clipboard, hit OK, and you can see I have this little box that shows me where my schedule is going to go. So I'm going to just click up here. I can use my arrow keys after the fact to kind of line it up, maybe to something like this, and hit escape. And now you can see we've simply added our note block schedule, our little sheet notes title, and our symbol or MEP sheet note to our drawings. So this is looking great. Now essentially what this schedule is doing is anytime I create a new note, it's going to schedule the note right here. So if I simply go to copy and I just start copying some notes, you can see that every time I copy, let's do multiple, it will add a new note line to the drawing. So that looks good, but that's not what we want. We actually want it to only schedule note 1 once because we're going to have multiple instances of note 1. So let's double click into our schedule. And let's go to sorting and grouping. And you can see right now we have this itemize every instance checked. Let's uncheck that and hit OK. And now you can see everything that was note 1 gets collapsed into a single row. So let's go back to our P10. And now you can see this is more conducive to how it will look on our plan. So this is what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these 3 notes right here. And I'm going to add a new note number 2. So I'm just going to click into this and add a number 2. And you can see that the schedule will automatically add note number 2 down here with the note text that's inside this note. So where does this text live? Well, if we click on the note, you can see over here I've added some parameters, and these are instance parameters, meaning that they can be different for each instance of this sheet note. And under note description, if we click into this box and then click the 3 little dots or ellipses, you can see I have a multi-line text box right here that we can use to edit our notes. So if I change this to note number 2, I can hit OK. And now you can see we've updated note number 2. So again, if I duplicate note number 2, nothing's going to happen because these 2 notes have the same note number and the same note text. So Revit will automatically collapse those into one single row. Now, if I do change the text to this note number 2, so I'm going to click the ellipses and added text, hit OK. You can see now there's a different text from this note to this note. So Revit's not going to display anything because it doesn't really know what to put here. So you have to be careful when you're working with sheet notes in this way, because if you have the same note that has different text but the same number, it's going to do something like this. So you have to be very careful. So I'm going to undo that, and now you can see it's working perfectly. Now if I add different text, so I'm going to add new text, hit OK, and the same thing happens. But if I change this to note number 3, you can see that it will go ahead and schedule it up here in this little smart schedule. So that's kind of how this works. Now I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in this symbol. So if I double click the symbol and open up the family editor, you can see it's simply a box with a masking region and a label. And so this is the label right here. So we'll click on it, and I'm going to go to edit label, and you can see that I have a parameter value called note number, where you can add the note number text to this generic annotation. Now I also have these other parameter values that are in here. So I'm going to click OK. And if I go to family types, you can see these parameter values. One is called note number, and that's what we just talked about on the label. And then we also have note description, and that was that multi-line text. So if I click in it and I click edit, you can see that the note description is multi-line text. It's an instance parameter and it's grouping under text. Click OK. And you can see I also have this sheet note or sheet number parameter, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later. So I'm going to click OK, and that's essentially the note. Now, if you want to update this note, maybe to something different because your company uses a different note symbol, we can always go to Edit Sketch, and I can just literally change this. So maybe I want to make a hex note, so I'm going to change it to, I don't know, let's go, it's not going to be perfect, but we'll do our best. Something like this, and then we'll mirror this, and we'll mirror it. We'll select both of these now, and we'll mirror it across this way. Something like that looks good, and then we'll trim it just like this, and I'm going to click Done. Oh, I forgot that one. And we're going to click Done, and now you can see I have this little hex symbol, so if I load this into the project, hit OK, overwrite the existing version, and now I have these little hex notes. So you can definitely update the symbol that is within the node itself by going into the family and just updating that masking region that's used right here. You can also change the size of this text. So right now it is a 3/32 size text. If I want to make this 1/8 of an inch, I can hit Edit Type. And you can see I have all the options right here to change the text size. So if I wanted to make this larger, I would simply just type in maybe 1/8 of an inch, hit OK. And now you can see my text got larger, and I would probably want to increase the size of my little symbol as well. So you just gotta, customize this to what your company does, and that way you'll be good to go. All right, I just wanted to show that. So I'm gonna X out of this. I'm not gonna save it. And now we have our new little hex notes. Now I'm gonna undo those because I'm gonna use the squares. Okay. So let's talk about the schedule itself. So essentially what this is a note block schedule. So I'm going to create one for you guys just to show you how it works. If I go to View, Schedules, you can see there's this one down here called Note Block. I'm going to click on it, and you can see that this little dialog box pops up, and it's basically going to select or display all of the generic annotations that I can schedule. Now that's the difference between a note block schedule. A note block schedule allows us to schedule the symbols or generic annotations within our drawing, which is very powerful. So we can click on the MEP sheet note symbol. That's this symbol right here. I'm going to click OK. You can also name it. So let's name it Sheet Note Schedule 2, since we already have one called Sheet Note Schedule. And now we are essentially just going to pick the fields we want to schedule. So I'm going to schedule the note number. I'm also going to schedule the note description. And let's go ahead and also schedule the sheet number. So I'm going to click OK. And as you can see, we've created the same schedule that we have in on our sheet, basically. It's using the note number, and it's using the note description here, and it also has this additional parameter value called sheet number. So we'll talk a little bit about why we need this sheet number parameter value a little bit later. Now, like we discussed before, if we go to our sorting and grouping, hit Edit, you can see Itemize Every Instance is checked, and that's by default. So remember, we had to uncheck that because we wanted the rows to collapse together, and so we make sure we do that. We also need to sort by the note number because we want it to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and so we want to select note number up here. Now, we also want to go to Appearance. I don't really want sheet number to be showing up, so I want to go to, Formatting, go to Sheet Number, and we're going to make that a hidden field. And so that way we cannot see sheet number on our schedule. So that's essentially how I created that schedule, and I just thought I would review that real quick. And also under Appearances, you can change the grid lines. So I'm going to show you what this looks like for the default. I'm going to click OK. And let's go back to our P101. Let's add that new schedule in here. So if we want to add a schedule to our plans, we go down to our project browser, and under schedule quantities, we can click this new sheet note schedule number 2, drag it in, and we'll just click right here. So the default schedule, as you can see, has lines on it and grid line, and it also has a title, and it also has these little subtitles, which is basically the name of the parameter value. So if we want to customize that further, we can go to our schedule. So I'm going to click into it. And this is our newly created schedule that we just created. We're going to hit Edit. And if I don't want the grid lines, I can turn them off here, or I can change the thickness of them with any line type I want. So I'm going to turn the grid lines off. And you can see I also have show title, show headers. So you can turn those off as well. So let's just turn them off. And then you can also select the different size text that you want to use within your schedule. So you can change between the title text, header text, and body text. So you have a lot of different options for customizing this little schedule. I'm going to click OK, and let's go back to our P101. And now you can see I've essentially duplicated or created this same schedule up here pretty quickly. So I'm going to delete this schedule. I just wanted to show you guys how this got created. And now the last thing we're going to go over is how to add this schedule to different sheets and make it work. But before I do that, I want to show you guys how these notes would look on a plan and how you can use them. So for instance, note number 1 could be pointing to maybe a shutoff valve right here. So if we double click into our view, let me just get rid of these notes. So we'll do this from scratch. And when I get rid of the notes, the schedule collapses because there's nothing for it to schedule on the sheet. But as you can see, it is still there. So you just have to keep that in mind. When you delete the notes, it's not going to show anything because the schedule doesn't have anything to schedule. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add a note. We're going to double click into our view here, and we're going to go to annotate, symbol, and we'll make sure we select our sheet note from the drop down here. And let's go ahead and add in sheet number 1 right here. We'll hit escape, and now there's nothing or there's no information within this sheet note. So if we click into it, you can see there's no values for the parameter values. So we'll click into this little question mark and we'll add a number 1, and that'll be note number 1. And now you can see that note number 1 does show up, but we need to add some text to it. So let's add some text. So while we're selected on the note, we can go to note description, click into it, click the little ellipses, and let's say provide line size shutoff ball valve. Hit OK. And now we have this note, so we can click on the note and add a leader. So we'll go to add leader, and the leader gets added, and right now it's an arrow, so we're going to point to where the ball valve will be, and we'll do something like this. Now if we want to add a ball valve, let me do it real quick. Systems, pipe accessories, and we're going to add a little ball valve. So let's pull this back. That looks great. And so now we have our newly created note number 1. Perfect. Let's add another note. We'll click on this note, and what we can do now is we can right click and use create similar. And now we have another note, so we'll go down to a point right here, click, and let's just change this to note number 2, and let's go into the text and we'll change this text. We'll hit delete to remove this one, and we'll just say to provide TMV, which is a thermostatic mixing valve. We'll hit the add leader, and we'll just point to below the lavatory. We can also, let's go ahead and add typical to this note, maybe typical for all lavatories. Hit OK. And now you can see we have note number 1 and we have note number 2. Perfect. So that's looking good. Now, the reason we added that third parameter for the sheet number is what I'm going to show you guys next. So we're going to deactivate this view, and I want to add this note, this schedule, note block schedule, to my other sheet. So maybe my sanitary and vent sheet. So let's go ahead and we'll select all of it right here. We'll copy it to the clipboard, and we're going to go to P2, double click on it, and we're just simply going to paste it aligned to the current view. And you can see my notes get pasted in perfectly, or the schedule. Now there is one problem. There are no sheet notes on this plan, so why is it scheduling these? Well, you got to remember this schedule is project wide, so it's going to schedule every single sheet note that's in the project. So that's why we have that third parameter value. We can use that to essentially filter our schedule so it only uses notes on specific sheets. So let's modify the schedule a little bit. Let's go back to P101 and we'll double click into this schedule, and let's use a filter. We're going to click edit, and let's filter by the sheet number. Now we only want the notes that have the sheet number parameter value equal to P101. We're going to click OK. And now you can see nothing is showing up. And that's because if we go to our P101 plan, we did not add any parameter value to that sheet number. So let's do that. Let's add it to note number 1. We're going to click note number 1 right here, sheet number. I'm going to click the drop down, or I'm just going to type in P101, apply. And now you can see 1 will show up because we've added that parameter value P101. And then this schedule is filtering based on that parameter value of P101. All right, let's do it for note number 2. So let's click into here. And now since I've added the parameter value, I can use the drop down and select P101, and you can see it shows up right here. Now, a trick is once you have your sheet notes all with this parameter value P101, it's really easy and convenient to just create similar. So when I create similar, so I'm going to create a new number, maybe note number 3. Let's do it right there, and let's change it to number 3, and let's point to this area right here. So I'm going to add a leader, point to this area, and I'm going to say to provide an access panel. So since I created similar, it automatically takes all the information. So for instance, sheet number got put on P because I created similar. Now I do need to change the text, so I'm going to click the ellipses, and I'm just going to tell the contractor to provide an access panel for the shutoff valves, and that looks great. Now remember, when I created similar, we had the same P101 sheet note parameter, and so instead of having to add it, I just created similar and it automatically shows up right here. So that's how you do that. Now let's go to P, and you can see the schedule is the same. So let's create a new schedule with a new filter on it. So I'm literally just going to go to my sheet note schedule, because that's this one right here. Let's delete sheet note schedule number 2. I don't want you guys to get confused. So I'm going to duplicate this one. So I'm going to right click and say duplicate view, just like this. And you can see it creates a new one. Let's call this one P102. And let's call this one, the one we originally had, P101. Now for my P102 schedule right here, since I have it open, I'm going to go to filter and we're going to click edit. And now for this one, I want everything to equal P102. I'm going to click OK. We'll go back to our sheet. You can see nothing is showing up. So let's add a new note. So we're going to go to annotate, symbol. Before we do that, we're going to double click into this view. I'm going to go to symbol, and we're just going to add maybe a note down here for this clean out. And once we add it, we just have a question mark because it has no information in here. So we're going to add number 1 here, and then we're going to click add leader, and we'll point to this little clean out right here. We'll drag this over. Now let's take a look at our schedule, and you can see nothing's happening. Remember, we have to add the parameter value to this note. So let's click into the note, and for sheet number, let's make sure we select or type in 102, hit enter, and you can see nothing's happening yet. And the reason why is because we have not actually added the newly created P102 schedule to this sheet yet. So let's do that. Let's deactivate the view, and let's click on this schedule right here, and let's just hit delete, and let's add the new P102 schedule that we created right here. Now it looks like I accidentally might have messed up the filters, but let's just change that real quick. Let's put this guy right here. And since this was P, let's double click into it, and let's make sure we check the filters. You can see I kind of messed up here. So let's make this one 102, and let's go back to our P101 schedule, hit edit, and let's make sure this one's 101. So now we fixed that. Let's go back to our 102, and you can see now if I click on this or hover over it, you can see it's the P102 schedule now. And I just need to make sure I update this value to 102, add a note description, provide wall cleanout, hit OK, and still nothing's happening. So let's click on this note, let's double click into it, and let's click on filter, edit, and you can see that we have this correct, so we need to do a little bit of troubleshooting. Let's go back to our P102 plan, and let's make sure you can see that we accidentally, instead of P, I just typed in 102. So let's change that to P102, hit enter, and now you can see it's showing up correctly. So I'm kind of glad that happened, because this is the problem with using this method, and it's not super easy to use. It's not very user friendly, but it does work. You just have to know what you're doing, and you have to understand that the notes and the schedule kind of are all matching up and need to be basically managed. Now, a lot of times what I like to do is just use these notes as like dummy notes. So like I'll just literally, create notes all over the place. I won't even have any notes in here, and I'll get rid of, I'll keep this on. Yeah, I'm going to just get rid of all the parameter values. So the only parameter value I will use is note number, and I'll just change this like this and point to different things. Maybe we'll add a note number 3 over here, something like this, just like that. And essentially what I will do is I'm not even going to use a schedule. I will just simply use text just like this. And if you use text, you can create a numbered list. So this will be note 1. I obviously don't want the text to look like this, so I'm going to click the drop down. We'll make it 3/32 or maybe 1/8 of an inch. That looks good. And I'll simply just use, text like this for my notes. Now, if you want a line between your notes, you have to hit enter and then delete, just like in AutoCAD, enter, delete. And that's kind of what I'll do. Especially for smaller projects, I actually recommend using a method like this. And there's no smart features or anything, but for a small project like the one right here, I will definitely use kind of dummy sheet notes. Now, if you want to copy this to another page, all you would do is select the text boxes up here, copy them to the clipboard, and let's just go to another sheet, maybe P100. I don't really have room for it, but let's just pretend I do. Let's pretend I move this down here. And all we have to do is go to modify, paste, align to current view. And you can see I have my sheet notes up here. And I would simply just double click into one of the views, click on annotate, and we'll create a new symbol. And you can see this is showing up. So I'll just click right there and we'll just make that note number 1 and add a leader. So this is the kind of stuff you can do. I have to hide this. Just like that. So you can use, this dummy note method technique. You can see there's no sheet number or note description parameter value. It doesn't require any of that, and it looks fine. So this is the style that I would recommend. But if you want to use the smart sheet notes, let's go back to P. You just have to, P101. You just have to remember to assign the sheet number parameter value and the note description up here to these actual keynotes. And then you need to create we'll deactivate this view. You need to create a sheet note schedule for every sheet. So if you have 10 sheets, you're going to need 10 sheet note schedules. That's why I don't really prefer this method. But luckily in Revit 2023, our problem has been solved. So I'm going to show you guys that next. But before I do that, let me just undo, and I want you guys to be able to have both of these dummy sheet notes in this project file. So I'm going to move this down, and we're going to make a copy. I'm going to get rid of this, and let's move in that schedule P just like this. And that way you guys can see how this is working. Let me go ahead and add the parameter value to these notes, and then this will be note 2 text. And then let's add in some text here, note 3 text. We have to make sure we add the parameter value. And you can see I have 1, 2, and 3 on this sheet, and it's not working for some reason. Oh, I didn't add the parameter value, 102. I thought I did, but apparently I did not, 102. And you can see that's, for some reason, there's just issues with using this type of setup. You can see again, for some reason I hit enter and it still didn't add it. So now we've added it. And you can see I have my little note block schedule up here. So I'll let you guys choose what kind of method you want to use. And let me show you in Revit 2023 how we don't have to use this complicated process anymore. Everything just works perfectly. So I'm going to upgrade this project to Revit 2023 and show you guys how it works. Okay guys, I've went ahead and upgraded to this project to Revit 2023. And I'm just going to show you how simple it is to use these keynotes, these smart keynotes in a 2023 project. So I'm going to go into this schedule. I'm going to double click into it. And all we have to do is go to filter, hit edit. And instead of sorting by the sheet number, we have this new filter by sheet option down here. Now what this will do is we'll only filter or only show the sheet notes that are on our sheet, which is perfect because that's really all we want. We only want to show the sheet notes that are on our sheet. So I can literally just remove the filter. I'm going to hit none and click OK, and I'm going to show you what happens. So right now when I click OK, it's going to say, hey, I don't know what the heck's going on. But if we go back to filter and we click filter by sheet, hit OK, you can see it still doesn't really know what's going on. But now when I go to my P101 plan, everything is showing up perfectly. So let me explain how powerful this is. So I literally have changed this P101 schedule. And we can literally just remove the 101 from it. So I'm going to go to my schedules. And instead of P1, now I don't have to have a schedule for every sheet. So we're just going to call this P10 or sheet note schedule. I'm going to delete P because I don't need that one anymore. And let's go to sheet P. We'll double click into it. And remember, we just deleted the schedule there. So I'm going to delete this one right here. And I'm going to delete this as well. And so you can see we still have these notes on this sheet. Remember 1, 2, and 3. Okay, watch how powerful this is. I'm going to double click into these notes and you can see the sheet number parameter values down here. I'm going to select all the notes and we're just going to get rid of the sheet number parameter because we don't need it anymore. Okay, so now we have this note 1 that has provide wall cleanout. Note 2 is note 2 text and note 3. All right, so here we go. Here's the power. Let's double click out of that. Let's go back to P101. Now I have this new schedule. I can literally copy and paste it to my 102 plan. So I'm going to copy to the clipboard. I'm going to go to P and I'm going to simply just paste a line to the current view. And would you look at that? It automatically schedules the sheet notes that are on this sheet. And the reason why it does that is because of that little check mark that we had, which was the filter by sheet. So it's only going to display the sheet note text that is on this sheet. So that is super powerful. So you can literally copy this little schedule. So I'm going to select it again, copy to clipboard, and we can literally paste it to all of these sheets. So if I go to paste, align to selected views, you can see I can paste this to my entire project. So I'm going to select everything. So click OK. And now when I open 103, you can see I have my new sheet notes with my sheet note schedule up here. There's no sheet notes on this plan, so it's not going to schedule anything. Let's add some. So let's go to systems or annotate, symbol, and let's add a note. Maybe we'll add one right here. We'll click into the note. We'll make it note number 1 and we'll add some text. Cold water down and chase. I don't know, something like that. Let's add a leader and we have note number 1 here and you can see it's automatically scheduling note number 1. Let's look at P104. Look at that. We still have the schedule up here. If we want to add a sheet note, let's go to symbol. And let's say maybe right down here, we're going to add a leader. And let's do it right here. Let's make this note number 1. Add some text to it. Provide wall cleanout. Hit OK. And you can see automatically is scheduling it right here. So you can see how powerful this technique is. And that's because they've added that new function where it only is going to schedule the notes that are on the sheet. So let me just review this one more time. So I'm going to go to P101. We'll double click into this schedule. We're going to go to filter and you can see the only filter I'm using is filter by sheet. And that's really all you need. You don't need any fancy filters in there. You don't need to use that sheet note parameter or that sheet number parameter or anything. I'm going to click OK. And basically it just works. It's very simple. And again, what I do is I set it up on one sheet, I copy it to the clipboard, and then I click the drop down and I paste it aligned to selected views. And then I just paste it to all the views or all the sheets that I want my sheet notes schedule to appear in my drawing set. So basically, if I set it up on P101, I'd want it on 102, 103, 104, 105. And so I'd select those sheets and click OK. And then I automatically have my schedule and my little title on every single sheet. And then when I add my notes on this sheet, it will automatically populate my schedule. So everything will just work. And that's because they added that new feature in Revit 2023. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I might do a live session where I kind of go over this because I do think it's an important concept and I would love to have you guys ask questions about it. But for now, I hope this video was helpful and I hope you guys consider using this technique. And all you will have to do is upgrade the template file to Revit 2023 and then copy the sheet note schedule into your project just like I showed for Revit 2020. Just make sure you do a save as before you save your 2023 template file. And I might also just provide a new 2023 template file in the project files for you guys to download. So hope you guys enjoyed this and I will see you in the next one. See you guys. Bye.